Good Tuesday morning. I'm Chief Meteorologist Preston Donion with the Northstate's news, breaking down what you need to know about wildfires up and down the West Coast, as well as impacts in Northern California from the smoke as well as the heat. But we'll start with those fires, looking at the states of Washington and Oregon, at some of their major blazes that are contributing to widespread smoke across the western states, including the North State. But let's zoom in on the state of Washington first and take a look at what exactly this map is showing you. Look here towards Tonasket. What you're seeing on the map is a pink outline. That is the latest available fire perimeter from the National Interagency Fire Center. And then in red, you're seeing satellite detected hotspots of fire activity. So the red dots are satellite detected hotspots in the past 6 hours as I record this about 9 a.m. on Tuesday. In orange, those are also hotspots, but they're a little older, 12 to 24 hours old. And it can really show us where fire activity is relative to the perimeter, see where growth may be happening, see where you expect to see that fire perimeter change with that next update that comes in later in the day or the following day. So most of the activity there on that fire near Tonasket is on that western flank, away from the community itself. We're concerned about that activity, though. This is only at 5% containment and over 100,000 acres as of your Tuesday morning. Shifting down the map just a little bit here into the Cascade foothills on the eastern side of Washington, we are taking a look at the Little Giant fire. That's this one right here, and you are seeing really significant activity all throughout that fire perimeter, all recent activity, and thus that current containment of 0% that we're hearing. Now, I want to take you a little further east in the state towards Spokane, because you've probably heard a lot about the fire activity in that vicinity, but what we're seeing there is not necessarily massive acreage, but the issues of the wildland-urban interface and the clash of fire in these densely populated areas. That's why we've seen such disproportionately terrible impacts from these relatively small fires, is that this is burning into suburban communities. So my thoughts go out to everyone in the state of Washington, but especially there in Spokane, where those impacts have been so severe so suddenly, with those several fires burning in that area, at least one of which is believed to be arson, which is just a terrible shame. Now, as we shift into the state of Oregon, we're going to zoom out a little bit and give you kind of a scale sense of what we're talking about, and go northeast of Bend and take a look at the Roe Creek complex. Now, this is a very, very active area over the past month, and really the activity now is showing up kind of filling in the gaps of that fire perimeter, right? This is a series of blazes that have burned together in some places, but all grouped together over 350,000 acres, and this is showing up as fairly active in one small pocket right now, something to keep a close eye on, about 350,000 acres. Now we shift to the Oregon-Idaho border here near I-84, and you are seeing most of that activity on the Idaho side of the border, but this is the Tartar fire, and this is one that's been active for a little while, certainly this morning on both its east and western flanks. And then shifting here to activity on the Big Grass fire, this is a massive fire over 300,000 acres, and you are seeing all of that activity in the state of Idaho at this point there on that eastern flank, but we did see a lot of activity in southern Oregon. So that goes to show just some of the largest fires. Of course, there's more than that. You still see a lot of red dots that we didn't talk about, putting off a lot of smoke. That is why you're seeing smoke in Northern California. Local fires have thankfully been handled very well by fire crews, and we had the Manton fire, for example, in northeastern Tehama County on Monday night. Got to 35 acres, burning through some dense vegetation, but they were able to get a good handle on that. No satellite detected hotspots, a good indication that we are in good shape and that fire should be contained without further issue. But I do want to take you a little further south in the state to talk about this fire burning off to the northeast of Stockton. This is the Gann fire, and this morning reported at 2,100 acres with 0% containment. This is one to watch for potential smoke impacts further north towards Chico, Oroville, some of the foothills and the mountains off to the east, and maybe even further north in the valley if we roll through the next couple days and continue to see significant activity there on the Gann fire, because south winds rolling up the valley may carry some of that smoke into the North State. Just something to keep an eye on. Now, let's talk about those winds, though, right? Really what's carrying this smoke is that north flow, and it's mainly just a strict northerly flow down the west coast. But behind the banner here, right about this point, you've got Cape Blanco in Oregon, right? And that's kind of this barrier. So all these winds are running along that, and they're just going to follow that pattern, right? It's this wall, and so it flows along where that wall was, but then you have this void, right? This kind of concave portion of the north coast from Point St. George to Cape Mendocino. Things are kind of concave. So you create this kind of vacuum, right? Because all of this is flowing strictly north-south, and there's this kind of vacuum, an area of relative low pressure that thus pulls in some of that north wind. So that's why smoke from states to the north are somehow coming in on north winds into the north coast. Even though the general pattern is out of the north, you're seeing those impacts into Crescent City, Eureka, and other spots right along the coast in terms of that poor air quality, not only throughout the day today, but overnight into your early Wednesday. Not a great night to keep those windows open in places like Crescent City, Gasky, Klamath, Eureka, Fortuna, Ferndale, you name it. But we should see some improvement in that smoke as we head through into your Wednesday. Heat concerns exist across a lot of the map. What you're seeing out there in that peachy orange color are heat advisories, and throughout interior Humboldt, Del Norte, and Trinity counties, that is in effect from this morning here on Tuesday through your Thursday. We're looking at Wednesday and Thursday when we talk about Siskiyou, Modoc, Lassen, Plumas, and Sierra counties. Now you might go, what's this red here in the Surprise Valley and in Lassen and Plumas and Sierra counties? Well, that is an extreme heat watch, and that is showing up here in terms of the order of things, how they stack as a priority, because that is a bigger concern, right? That is going to be something that we watch, but that's later. Right now, we're watching Wednesday, Thursday for that heat advisory, just the same as everyone else, but that extreme heat watch is in effect Thursday through Sunday. Heat risk, of course, a big story for us today. You're seeing a lot of Trinity, Humboldt, Siskiyou, and Del Norte counties in red, highlighting that major risk for heat-related illness. So not a day to fool around out there. Take it easy, play it smart, play it safe, and look after loved ones as we navigate through some significant heat and a whole lot of sunshine, right? We can really skip through today's skies pretty quickly. It's mainly sunny. You get a little cloud cover out there into the evening, and that'll work out nicely for maybe a pretty sunset. But overall, it's a mainly sunny afternoon and one that feels just a lot too hot for most places. 108 Willow Creek and Alder Point today, 90 in Neeland and 70 in Shelter Cove. We'll continue north and look at 105 in Gasky, 74 in Klamath, 76 in Blue Lake, and 70 in Eureka, where temperatures should slide back to those mid-60s as we roll into the second half of the weekend. A little more cloud cover out there at times, still seeing at least a little sunshine and hopefully less of that smoke as we move into tomorrow. Further inland, the heat is on through the end of the work week, back to about 100 by Saturday and back into the 90s as we roll into next week. So hang in there, get through these next couple days. The heat is really focused on that Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday stretch. And that's true in Trinity County as well. 101 in Weaverville, 104 in Hayfork, 102 in Lewiston. 94 in Fall River Mills and Alturas today, 95 in Shingletown. We'll head down into the valley and look at 106 in the city of Shasta Lake and Cottonwood, 107 for Redding and Palisadro. And we'll move south and see things just a smidge cooler than yesterday here as well. 105 in Chico and Corning, 103 in Orland and Oroville. In Chico, watch for a little bit of a dip on your Wednesday, Thursday, but back to these same toasty levels as we roll into the weekend, with true relief showing up towards the middle and later portions of next week. But hey, by next Tuesday, we're at least back into the double digits. That's something to celebrate. And in Redding, yeah, maybe not to those double digits quite yet, but 100 on Tuesday, that's our normal high right about now. So getting back to normal is certainly something we can all look forward to with this series of 105s, 107s, and even one more 108 on the board. Hope you can stay cool, stay hydrated, and stay safe out there and breathing good, clean air. We'll talk more tomorrow on Wednesday.